Okay, in this one, I plan to explain how the CSVs work for audio in World at War. Now, they're a little bit, they could be a little bit tricky because there is a lot of stuff in there, and the header tells you what each thing does. But if you open a notepad, it's actually like I copied this out from Asylum because that's what I use for mine. But so when I make my CSVs, I copy and paste Nazi Zombie Asylum CSV out somewhere else, and then I remove everything that I don't need, and then I just go from there, adding in my files and all that stuff. So I'll show you what I mean here, though. But so like a lot of these lines, I've never got them to work just by default. What you need to keep for sure, though, is this header. This header defines what all these values between these commas do. So, you can see here, it says name, file, platforms typically not used. Usually that's just, see, it's blank. So, the name is the name of the audio file, and then file is the location. So you can see here it's in stream, music, mission, burr2, mx intro, /stg dot wave. So that's the file location. And then here's the platform, which you can see there's nothing in there in between that comma and the next one. So platform isn't used. But trying to read through all this, as you can see, because this is really, really long, this just goes on pretty far over. Like trying to, okay, well, percentage, or let's say center percentage here. Well, oh, okay, now I got to figure out how many commas. I'd have to sit here and count how many commas that is here, and then go down to one of these and count how many commas to figure out where it's at. That's annoying, and it's not very intuitive. It makes it much more of a pain in the ass than it needs to be. So I'll show you a better way of doing that when you get to the point of wanting to edit things. But I'm going to show you an easy way to set it up, more or less just for testing. So we've got our Nazi Zombie Asylum here. Now what I do for mine, this is how I always start mine, because it's the only line I found that works every time for me, is I just drag over all this stuff, and I come down to here, and I delete until I get to toilet flush, so all that can just go bye-bye. And then everything below, you could just delete all that too. You don't need any of this either, because all this other stuff is just, it all pertains to that map. So I just stick with keeping this here. Now something you could do too to kind of clean this up, and so if you wanted to have multiple things like music and sound effects and all that stuff in here in the same CSV, you could use the hashtag or the #, whatever you prefer to call it. I guess nowadays it's called the hashtag, because that's what everybody seems to refer to it as after Twitter and all that crap. So that bullshit. So let's hashtag it so we could just put a note here and say okay, music, whatever. And you could do the same thing throughout here. So say you had a few of these down here, and then you wanted to do sound effects. You could do SFX or whatever you want to call it, or just spell out sound effects, whatever. Just leave yourself notes so you could be oh, okay, well, anything after this hashtag is pretty much free game. It's basically equivalent to the / in your GSCs. So you could just, if you wanted to make it easier to find stuff, you could just throw a whole bunch of lines like this in there. So you could be if you got a bunch of stuff, you could just scroll down until you see all these lines, and you'll be like, okay, well, That's where my you know, sound effects are or whatever. You can just see what's in front of these lines or whatever. That's just an easy way to do it. You'll probably never have that many sounds, because by the time you get that many sounds into your map, the game will probably have a stroke and just crash on you every time you try and load your map. So you probably won't need that. I've never figured out what the actual limit is or why it does that. I don't know if there's a way to uncap the limit on sounds. I mean, there must be, because I mean, look at how many sounds are in here. You know, there's quite a bit. But you know, they created the game so they could set their own arbitrary limits for their own maps. I mean, I don't think we can do that. So after, like, for me, I put in like 6 songs into my map, and the game had a stroke, so I had to down it to 5. I could only put 5 songs in a map. And I think if I put any more sound effects or anything like that in there, it's just going to have a seizure on me. So, anyway, on to what we need to do here. So, for this here, if you aren't aware, like I said, this is going to be the file that you're referring to. So, like, whatever sound effect or whatever this, you create. And this is going to be the location of where that file is. All the way down to the file itself, so you know, whatever path it's in. So I already have one set up for Myth. This has got all my sound and stuff for my music and all that stuff, so I'll show you that real quick. Plus, it's not a bad idea to pull another one up for reference reasons, but we really don't need it because I've done this so many damn times. But I just want to show you in mine how I have things. Where is it? It's under Nazi. Yeah, it's under Nazi Zombie Myth, ain't it? Oh, I'm in raw maps. Never mind. Hold on. You want to be in raw sound alias. So sound alias is, yeah, okay. I was going to say it should just be Myth. Alright. So as you can see, I didn't set this up. This was a result of me using something to help me edit this easier so I could see all these values more clearly, which I'm going to show you in a second. But, so as you can see here, I have the song, and it is in a folder called Eggs, and then, you know, the song. So, but it's using the exact same header that I just showed you here. We'll move that out the way for now because we won't need it. So it's using the same header from Nazi Zombie Asylum, and it's using the same line, just modified. We'll get into all these values here real shortly too. I don't know what every single one of them does. I have ideas on what they do. I haven't messed with all of them. But just note that most of them you're probably not going to mess with. The main one you'll probably change is like right here where it says music. You know, if you do full volume like this or full vol, that makes it work with the sound effect slider. So it'll be mixed in with like the zombie screams and all that stuff. If you want it to be a music sound and work with the music slider, then you change that line to music. But like I said, that'll be easier to do when we edit it using Google Tools here. So like let's go ahead to my drive here. This is how I always do it. It's a little bit easier just to use Google Drive. So like go to your Google Drive or whatever, and you can see all this bullshit I got in here. You don't got to worry about that. I actually backed up my CSV from a while ago, and actually this needs deleted because that's an old version. I changed stuff since then. Excuse me. But anyway, so let's go ahead and make the tweaks that we want to make to this real quick. And I'll show you another thing too real quick before we get into that. So in here in raw sound, you're going to want to make a folder. So whatever sounds you're going to want, I recommend you could use the same folder for multiple maps and all that stuff if you wanted. So you could have like all of these files in here and then add other files that are only going to be used in another map or whatever. You can do that if you want. But I recommend making a new folder. So what we'll do is we'll start off with that, make a new folder, and then we could name this whatever we want. You can name this whatever you want. Just make sure you remember it because you're going to have to reference it in the CSV. So like for instance, we could just do SFX, /test, whatever. You could do something like that, or we'll just do S for short because we like short and sweet names, so you can do that. Pretty much the same rules apply to this as it does for pretty much anything else. I don't think you could start the folder name with a number. I don't think that'll work. Basically, it'd be kind of similar to scripting. You have similar naming rules to that. If you're going to have multiple words, it has to be /. So the same basic principles as pretty much anything else in scripting for this game. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a sound and add it in here. And so what I've done prior to starting the recording of this is I made us a beautiful sound effect here that you're probably going to love. I know I do. Not really. But we could do some effects and stuff to it to make it, sound worse or better or whatever. But yeah, let's take a listen. Okay, so I just recorded that prior to starting this video, so then we have something to test with. In this case, this would probably be okay to be used as like a sound effect. But it could be used maybe you want to use it as a voiceover, maybe you want to use it under music for whatever stupid reason you want to put that creepy laugh as as a music, but you could. You could literally make this however you want. So like we can mess with effects or echo, fade in, fade out, all that crap. Change the speed. So let's turn that up and see what happens. Okay. Okay. Alright. I kind of like that. Alright. I think I am going to use that now. Okay. So we can change the pitch too. I don't know if we want to turn that up or if we want to turn that down. Let's down pitch it and see how that sounds. Oh my god, that sounds demonic. Alright. Yeah, we could try that. Let's just do that. So, using Audacity, the only thing, you can use whatever, but you got to make sure that it's a 16-bit PCM. It doesn't matter if it's signed or unsigned. That's a mistake that was made in every tutorial I've ever seen or read for this. It says that it has to be an unsigned PCM. That's not true. It just can't have any tags. So it could be signed or unsigned 16-bit PCM. It does not matter. And it can be stereo or mono. But the reason you'd want to convert this to mono instead of leaving it as stereo is because it takes up less space. So, if you want to add in a bunch of sound effects and you don't want the game to have a stroke, which it'll eventually have one anyway, but if you want to avoid giving it a stroke prematurely, then what I recommend doing is just converting it from stereo to mono. I forget how to do that in this newer version. I was using an old version for a long time. Like, I was using like 1.3 beta or something for like years. So, I forget exactly where that is. The stereo to mono thing. I guess it's not too important, but let's see. Is it under tracks? Where did I see that? Yeah, sorry about this. I probably should have looked for this prior to me starting this, but I completely forgot until now. Like, I knew I was going to have to do it, but I forgot that this is not like the old version I'm used to using, where it was literally you just pulled down one of these. I forget which one, but it was like, basically you just went down and that was it. And it did it. So, but anyway, we could export this now. So we could export this as a wave. It doesn't matter really right now. So you see it says it's assigned 16-bit PCM. So you could do the same thing. You could go down. I don't think there's unsigned on here for 16-bit PCMs. But you use assigned 16-bit PCM. Make sure it's in a wave format or WAV or however you want to pronounce that. Doesn't really matter. I've always called them wave files since I was like probably like 6 or 7 years old. So that's what I'm going to stick with. But yeah, there we go. And what do we want to name the file? Well, this one's like some creepy demonic laugh, so we'll just call it demon laugh or something. So we got our demon laugh, and then I'm going to want to save this to a particular folder on the desktop because I don't want to have to play guessing games on where it's at. So we'll just put it in here, and there we go. And see, when we get to this page here, you want to make sure that all these tags are cleared. So, you know, if you got tags in here like artist name and all that stuff, just click on all these boxes and hit remove, all that bullshit. Just make sure there's no tags. So if you're using a song, some of these fields might be filled in. So just make sure you remove all of them. You could hit clear too, and I think clear does the same thing, but I usually just remove them individually just to make sure that, you know, it does what I want it to. So we've exported our lovely demonic sound. We don't need to save the project because we've already got the sound effect. So lovely. So yeah, that was from some Cyberpunk footage I was playing back last night. I got over 5 hours in one video on there. I got probably a good, I got about 30 hours of the gameplay recorded. That was for another video project I just haven't had time to get around to. Because it's a pretty massive one. Let's see here. In this S folder, let's copy in our demon laugh here. So we're going to copy and paste. And there we go. So if you already know how to do this section where you make a sound effect or you add music in or create the music file in the folder and all that, you can go ahead and just skip all that crap and get to the part where I mess with the CSV, which is coming up. Now that we've got our sound effect in there, we're going to want to copy this to a couple more places. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to, we got it in sound down here. So we're going to want to go to sound assets, copy that in here, paste. I don't think you necessarily have to have it here. But you may need it there when you go to distribute your map. So I'm not 100% sure. I think that's why you put it in here too. But I've never distributed any of my maps, so I don't know if it needs to be there or not. I haven't tested with multiplayer or anything else either, so I don't know if it has anything to do with that. So then you're going to also want to go into your mods and the map that you plan to add this to. So in here where you got this client scripts and all this nonsense here, you're going to add this in. So we're going to paste that folder into here too. Because you need the same with your textures, you need them locally with your map files for distribution purposes. I know that that's what that's for, and I think it also has something to do with making it, I don't know, less time consuming for the map, for the GSC or whatever to go find these files. I really don't know. I'm not so sure about that part, but now in here you'll add in your folder and all that stuff. So like most people just do that here in Launcher. You could just like go like this and then add that in. So like for example, let me pull up my other map real quick. You could see in here I have it right here. So I could just basically take this same thing here and do the same thing. So this wait, let me get that out of the way. So this here is always going to be sound. You don't it doesn't change based on, you know, a folder name or anything. So it's always going to be sound, and then it'll be your map name or whatever you named your CSV file. So whatever you named the CSV file, and then MP all, or SP all, it doesn't matter. You could do either or, SP all or MP all, just as long as it has one of those. So we're not going to set that up yet because we haven't even set up our CSV. So we're going to get on to setting up the CSV. So let's give it a name. We'll just call this YTT because why not? It's going to go with our map YTT, so it's easier if we have it named specifically for a map. That's why I do that. You can name it whatever the hell you want. If you want to name it Cock and Balls, go ahead and do that, if that tickles your fancy or whatever. So let's see here. Oh yeah, Google Docs is what, or Google Sheets is what we need. Oh whoops, don't I have one open? Okay, let's just save, or actually no, let's save as, and then where did I put that CSV? It should be on desktop. Okay, well we'll just do, okay, no, that's not what I want. It changed it to a text document. You don't want that to happen. You want this to remain a CSV and still show up with the notepad thing. If it shows up like this, then something went wrong. So basically what happened is it tried to recreate it as a text file when I saved it as, which is not what you want. You definitely don't want that. So we're going to go down here to this toilet flush, like I said before, because that's the only line I found that works 100% of the time for me, without having to play guessing games and mess around with all these values, which most of the time doesn't even fix the issue. So we've got what we want here, so we're just gonna save this again. Now we'll drag it into here and upload it to well, in here. So where did it go? I must have accidentally dragged it into one of these folders. Yeah, here we go. It's in here, so that's fine. Doesn't really matter where it's at. Now we should be able to, let's see, how did I do that? I know you could open this with Google Sheets, so you could see how this opens in here like this. We don't want that. But we could do this and open with Google Sheets, and then this will open it in a new tab. And then as you can see here, we've got our lines neatly numbered, and we have all of these different values spaced out into different columns in a spreadsheet format. So we could see exactly what's going on here. Now, if we move this over, you could see, as I pointed out earlier, if we move that over, we could see that that's under File. Because this is so long, that'll overlap. So if it makes it easier for you, that's what I would do. Just drag it over. So now we could rename this stuff. So we could backspace there and do demon underscore laugh, and there we go, we got that part set up. So now we're going to do the same thing with our folder here. So we're going to be using that one custom folder I made, so it's just going to be s/ our name. So we could go ahead and delete this, and then it would be s, and then it will be the slash. I believe it's that slash. I don't know that it actually matters, but let's double check. Yeah, that slash. Just so it doesn't give you any errors or it just don't work. Because what will happen is it won't give you an error, it just won't work. So if you have anything wrong, just, save a backup file of it for reference, so you know. And then we're going to do demon laugh, and then .wave. So that's our file path. We don't have to add anything else to that. That's perfectly fine as it is. So now we're going to move on to the fun stuff, which is like changing stuff. Now, like I said, for your bus type, which is what controls what kind of sound it is. Sorry, I'm exhausted. Anyway, if we leave this as is at full vol, that makes it work under the sound effects slider. So for this example, we're going to leave that, but I'll give you some other examples. Like I said, music's one. I believe if you change it to ambient, then it makes an ambient sound effect. Also, there's SFX for sound effects. So if you wanted it to be as, I guess you could just use full volume for that though, but I'm pretty sure SFX works as well. I don't think you actually have to use full volume. You could use SFX too, and that would work the same, I think, if I remember right. But for now, just worry about full vol and music, because those are most likely what you're going to be using in the map anyway. There's also VOX. So VOX it'll work with the voice, like the voiceover slider, or for voices. So like, player voice and all that stuff, that would be under VOX. So you would change this just to VOX. But we're not going to change that, but those are the examples of the different things you could put in there. So you got music, full vol for sound effects, and you got ambient, which is just ambient, and then you got VOX for voiceover clip. So yeah, you could place this under a voiceover if you wanted, but you wouldn't really need to. So we'll start up here, since I already covered this, because this is going to be the most important one, most likely, that you're going to want to mess with. So this is going to set your minimum volume and your maximum volume. This goes between 0 and 1. So you could do you can make the minimum volume 0.01 or 0.1 if you wanted, and then the max 1. So it goes in between 0 and 1. There is no more or no less. That's just how that works. You don't really need to mess with this because it's basically set to maximum volume. The only reason you would need to mess with this is if for whatever reason you wanted it to be at a certain volume or whatever. So now over here we got our minimum distance and our maximum distance. So we're going to get into what these are important for here in a second, because I got something else over here that you're going to need to see. And that is this spatitalized, or whatever the fuck this says. I don't even know what the fuck that says. So under this one here, there's two settings you could have. You could have 3D, which is, you know, obviously 3D sound. So that means whatever object you're playing the sound from, it'll emanate outward from it. So that's where that minimum and maximum distance comes into play. So this minimum distance will be the minimal distance that it can basically, that it's gonna, you know, encompass, and this will be the maximum distance from where you can hear it from. So there's gonna be like, it'll start off, you know, really loud when you're really close to it from minimum distance, and then once you get further away, it'll get quieter and quieter. So there's that. That's what these are for. And then we got, there's also these fall off curves. You don't have to, reverbs for like changing like well, the reverb on your audio, but you don't have to mess with that. You could just do that in Audacity when you make the file and get it the way you want. But you could also do that in here. I wouldn't mess with it because you'll be tinkering with that number so damn much to get it where you want it that it's just not even worth it. This stuff here don't matter. Any of these blank ones you don't really got to worry about. Now the reverb fall off curve, there's different ones. I know there's curve 2, curve 3. I don't know exactly what they do. I couldn't tell you. I'm guessing that has to do with how the sound changes with distance, but I don't know. Maybe look that one up. Maybe somebody could give you better pointers than me on that. The minimum and maximum pitch, you'll just want to leave that alone, because again, the same thing with like the reverb and all that stuff. You could just set all that in Audacity. So like when I made that sound effect, you seen I was messing with the effects on it. Well, you could just use the effects on your sound effect and tweak it till you get it where you want it, and then just, you know, create your, you know, save your file, your audio file, and then use it that way, and then you don't have to mess with any of that, which is probably a smarter way to do it anyway, like I said, because you'll be messing with them numbers forever trying to figure out how you want it. All of this stuff again don't matter. When we get down here, this is the minimum and maximum envelope size stuff. You don't have, you can change these, you don't really have to. In my other CSV I changed them, and I don't think it made a difference. But I think I had this set to 1 and these set to maybe 80 and 100. Really, it doesn't matter. The priority, minimum priority, maximum priority. Again, these are numbers from 0 to 100, just like that other one. So if you wanted it to just be a maximum priority at all times, so like, you know, basically this sound effect will take precedence over other sound effects. So if there's zombies screaming in the background, and you want this to be more prominent over top of the zombie screams, then you could just set these both to 100, and there you go, you've got that set. Then we got our minimum priority threshold and maximum priority threshold. So for those, the minimum priority threshold is, well, as you can see in here, the default for this particular sound effect we stole this alias from is 0.25. You could do the same thing like I said with the other stuff at the beginning. You could just set these both to 1, and then they'll have their priority threshold will basically be, they'll take precedence over other sound effects and whatever. So you don't really have to worry about that. You could just leave it as is and it'll be fine. But if you wanted to mess with those, you could. You don't really need to, but using the CSVs are kind of a pain in the ass. So that's why I showed you doing it this way, because it's just easier to open it in Google Docs or Sheets or whatever the hell this is, you would call this, Google Sheets, and then go through it as a spreadsheet. Or you could use a spreadsheet program. You might be able to use like Excel or something like that, whatever you got on your computer. You might be able to use like a spreadsheet application like that, like Microsoft Excel or one of them spreadsheet apps. But you might even be able to find a tool. I know that they used to have tools where you could just open your CSV in there and it would basically open it like a spreadsheet. But that's the easiest way to make this more human readable, so you could see, you know, okay, well, this is where I'm placing this. This number goes with this, you know. It's a lot easier. So, like I said, for this, we're going to leave it as a 3D sound. So, we want a minimum and a maximum sound threshold, or distance, I mean. So, for this, I'm going to actually remove this and make the maximum 250. But you can play with these numbers and you'll see how far away and, you know, you can get before you stop hearing the sound. I left these to default on one of my sound effects in my main map that I've been working on. So it was 150 and 500, and you can hear the sound effect through the walls, which is something I plan to change later. So I'll probably do something like this, 150, 250 kind of thing. But that'll really depend on how distant you want the sound. I think the max distance is 500, so I don't know if you could set it any higher than that. I haven't played with it, but you could tinker around. It might go up to 1,000. So you could tinker around with that number if you want to. Just make sure that, you know, every time you tinker with that, if you don't like it, you change it back so you don't have to play guessing games later. But yeah, so that's basically it for the CSV portion. Now we're actually going to have to put the sound effect into use and show you how that works. So I'm going to script it onto something. So let's see, how do I file, where's the save? Okay, let's, and then we'll download this. And then now we could dump this one in the garbage because we got what we need right here. So now let's open this up. This should be my downloads. Yep, it sure is. And we'll copy that over. And then it's gonna name it, you know, basically its name twice, so just remove that. Make sure it's just YTT. Because we're going to need that in here. So you're going to need the name of this, you're going to need sound. So we're going to do that here. We'll do sound and then comma YTT comma, and then you could do, like I said, SPL or MPL. I use MPL for the most part because that's just what I do. It really doesn't matter. But as you can see also, we've got our, it sees our folder here, so it knows about our file. But if you don't add this in and you don't have the CSV set up, then it could see this file all day long and it won't do anything with it, no matter how many times you try and play the sound off of something. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead, now that we got that in there, we gotta copy this into where are we at? Okay, we gotta copy that into raw and then sound aliases. So we've got this in sound aliases now. So now we don't have to worry about that at all unless we're coming in to change something. So we'll open that up and we can see right here we've got everything set up the way we spec'd it out to be. So, you know, once you get it in here, really the only numbers you'll ever have to mess with all like that are these ones if you want to do, you know, minimum maximum distance. That's only for 3D sounds, so really, if you change this to 2D, then these are kind of irrelevant. You don't need those because it's going to play as a global sound, so you aren't going to need those. This one, to change it from sound effects to music to voiceover to ambience, whatever. And then really that's it. And then like maybe your priority thresholds, but you know, you really shouldn't need to mess with anything else other than those. Alright, so we've got that set up. We really don't need this anymore, but I'm just gonna leave it open. We've got this set up in here. So now we're gonna have to actually go back in here anyway, because we need to make the sound effect work somehow. So we're gonna have to script it. So we're gonna go into the mods. We're gonna go into YTT, in my case, and then maps, and then to this GSC script here. We could do something with the map real quick, like add in something to play this sound off of, like a script origin or a script struct. Either or really work, I think. I used, I think, a script struct the last time I made a loudspeaker. But we're doing it with a loudspeaker, so and then after this, I'll change it to I'll change it over to a 2D as music, and you can see that it works that way too if you want. Really, I feel like that part of the video would be irrelevant, but because I already explained how all that works. But just to kind of give you a visual example that it does work, I might do that anyway. So let's go ahead and set something up here. So let's set up a script struct, and we'll just like place that over here somewhere. Doesn't really matter too much. Actually, you know what? We'll place it over by my door. That way, then as we get closer to it, I mean, we might be close enough to it anyway to where the minimum like distance threshold is kind of high enough anyway to where it just sounds like we're right up on it from the start. But you know, whatever. So then we're gonna do just like we do with anything else. We give it a target name, and then we'll just call it sound. So you can make it sound.origin or sound.or or whatever, or /or or whatever. I'm sorry. You could use one of those if you want, or whatever. Just, you know, if you're gonna do it this way. You could also play it off of like any of these objects too. Like if I wanted to, I could just take the target name of this trigger and I could just play it off of there. You know, you could literally play it off of pretty much any object in the map. You could play it off the player. You could play it off of the floor if you wanted to. You can make it emanate from the floor. Well, it would have to, anything that is a script brush model, I should say, like you can't just play it off your walls without it being a script brush model. But you could just play it pretty much off anything. So, so yeah, we got that set up now. So let's go ahead and we could actually probably start compiling this section of the map, just so we have that part set up. Let's go ahead and start scripting it. Okay, fuck off. So we'll make a new thread here, and we just call it SFX. It really doesn't matter. And then let's see, I got a lot of empty space here, so I'll just do SFX, and then we're gonna do S equals get int. And then in here we're going to pass it in that object we just created. So this is going to be a target name of the object, and it is going to be sound. And then so we could do this as a loop or whatever if you want to loop it. But just for this example, we're going to make it kind of short and sweet. We're going to do wait 5. And then we'll do play sound. Or actually we'll do play sound at position. So that'll, this takes in 2 values obviously, and that's going to be the sound effect. So our sound alias, so that was Demon Laugh, and then this is going to take in an origin, so this will be dot origin. Okay, so we've got that set up, and we could actually put this in a loop. That way then it does this every 5 seconds. So we'll just make a short and simple infinite loop here. And there we go. Every 5 seconds it should play the sound effect. So as long as nothing went wrong, which it shouldn't. Now we've got the map itself compiled, we've got this set up, so all we got to do now is we'll compile the patch, because that's a smart idea to do anyway. But when you're building sounds, what I always do, this is the way I learned how to do it, you build fast file mods and build sounds, right? So you do this, and don't worry about the errors, sometimes it'll do this dumb shit. But, you know, you'll always get probably some kind of error unless you got like the cleanest install of World at War mod tools ever, which is like impossible because even the default install of it has some errors. So, and then you untick that and tick both of these and then build, and then you should be fine. So now we'll go ahead.